This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Hi, my name is Igor Kheifets, and this is The List Building Lifestyle, the only podcast which delivers cutting-edge conversion strategies from the online trenches straight to your earbuds. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. I also invite you to grab a free copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle.
Welcome back to another edition of List Building Lifestyle with your man, Igor Kheifets, the czar of solo ads. What is up, my man?
The big, great czar of solo ads. You know, it's funny because it all started out with just funny little name, is this weak attempt to rebrand me back in the day. But now, I just came back from funnel hacking. And, I was actually recognized in the room, being the solo guy. I was having breakfast and I was staying at a different hotel from the one where the event was because that one got sold out real quick. It was a massive event. Russell put up a really good event. And so I was having breakfast one day and this couple was eating right next to me. And they were speaking German. And I could tell they're like marketers because, first of the conversation, you would always hear things like, Shopify and like the lingo, right? And it would come in through the language, but also because they were wearing, funnel hacking t-shirts, which was the dead giveaway. But anyway, they ordered some coffee and then the woman, she looked at me and I could see that she recognized me. And when I started, when I just sparked up a conversation with them, she was like, "Is your name Igor?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh yeah, a friend of mine told me I should buy traffic, blah, blah, blah." So I actually ended up becoming somewhat recognizable in a room with 1,100 people in it.
No kidding. Wow. And the funnel hacking t-shirt, that was a good little touch there. So then you were traveling, our listeners wouldn't know this, I don't think, but you and I haven't spoken in at least 2 months, right?
Yeah, because you went on a crazy lifestyle first and Igor second schedule, which made me feel like a rebound girlfriend.
No. Give me. Let's talk about what you did. So you were actually, now, was it just one event or more? I know you were in Dallas, so you were there for Russell's event. Tell me a little bit about your trip.
Well, it was a 26-hour door-to-door journey from the moment I step out of my home in Israel and all the way until I literally slide the card into the lock in my hotel on the 17th floor. It was an intense trip, I can tell you, but traveling business class definitely makes it easy for sure. And, I don't complain, but sometimes it can get, emotionally challenging when it comes to these trips because on one hand, I recognize the value of going out and mingling and basically shaking some hands and taking some selfies with people, to put my face out there and to make some great new connections. But on the other hand, the difficult part is that taking your family to an event like that is a huge challenge, and not because it's way more expensive. It's about 3 times more expensive, and you can imagine how much money it costs me to travel, such a great distance business class. But also because when I made the mistake of taking my wife with me to a bunch of events, and because you're thinking about her, she's stuck in the hotel room. She went out, she did some shopping and everything, but then she gets bored and she starts calling you. And she's like, "Oh, you left me in my room. You don't pay attention to me," and all that, girly stuff. But she doesn't realize that I've paid a lot of money and sacrificed a lot of time to be here. So I want to make the most out of every moment. So I want to go and meet as many people as I can. I want to perhaps, structure a joint venture deal or just literally mingle. And I think the word is schmoozing. And to schmooze with people, right? Because that's the way, the business is done on the higher levels. It's just becomes an equation of who do you know and not what you know. And so, so that's the duality of such a trip. Not to mention that, when you have a 4-year-old at back home and she's now becoming conscious and you can have an actual conversation with her, when you FaceTime with her and she says things like, "Daddy, where are you?" And you say, "I'm in Dallas." And she says, "When are you coming back home?" I'm like, in a week. And she says, "Okay, so are you not coming back home tonight?" I'm like, "No, honey, I'm not." It's like, why did you leave me?
Oh
It's like,
man.
and it's like, it's like a knife going into my heart and twisting. Somebody's twisting it. So yeah, I mean, when she cries on the phone, it's also very difficult. And I don't know about anyone else, but for me, it's just too much to bear.
Wow. Yeah. My heart just sank a little bit when you said that with our son here. I know how you feel. So this is the thing. Look, I was at a mastermind last week and I got really, really uncomfortable when people were telling me that I needed to get out to more events like the event that you were at. And I have this thing in my mind where I don't want to freaking go to any events. So all that travel you did, all that work you put in, all the hours you were out there, what is the value you receive from that, Igor?
Well, this value thing is really subjective because each person can bring something else from these events. Some people go straight for the content, right? And this really gets us to a question like, should you even go there? Like, when do you know that it's about time you get out? Now, I have to be honest and I have to say that I've brought my business up to multiple six-figure level without visiting any event, like without meeting anyone in person, without getting out of my little hometown here, without literally going to a single event or meeting anybody in person, shaking their hand in a seminar environment, which kind of contradicts to most advice you get online, where they tell you you should go to events, you should absolutely go, and if you have the opportunity, go. Because the first thing it's going to do for you, it's going to inspire the crap out of you. It's going to inspire you to aim higher, to dream bigger, because all of a sudden you're in the same room with people that are making 10, 20, 30, 50 times the amount of money you're making. And in every room you'll ever visit, you're always going to have about 60% of people not making anything, about 20 something percent making a little bit, about, I don't know, 10% or so doing kind of okay, or somewhat well. I'm talking like full-time income and beyond. And there's going to be 4% or so, or even less, that are making crazy money. I'm talking millions. So just being in the same room as the millionaires and the top performers, if you're somebody who's not making anything right now, that alone expands your mindset, and you start asking yourself the question, well, I just met this person. I had a conversation with them. Like, I had coffee with them. Maybe I invited them over for lunch. And if you can, by the way, if you can invite somebody who's a top performer that you meet on the seminar for lunch, do it. It's not always the case because they get invited for lunch all the time. So they don't necessarily get excited about that. But if you can have a meal with that person and you have a conversation, the one thing you're going to recognize is this person is flesh and blood just like you. And that realization alone can lead to a life-changing conclusion on your part, saying, well, wait a second. So here I am making less than $2,000 a month working a dead-end job. This person who started out in the same way is now making, I don't know, 100 times that, working half the hours I work and doing something they enjoy. If they can do it, why can't I do it? And this is the biggest question. This is the question that can lead to tremendous changes in your life. So that's one, if you want to call it, value you can get from it. It's the conclusion that these people are real. They're not some, godlike entities or ghosts that are hiding behind their computer screens. They're literally just like you. They have the same doubts, insecurities, concerns, and everything else. The other value you could get from events, which really comes on a, well, if you will, on a secondary level for me, is the content. Because anytime I go to an event, me personally, what I see is a speaker giving me content that I already know. But that's because I read a lot, right? That's because I don't wait for an event to get me the knowledge I need. And oftentimes, Jonathan, it's getting so ridiculous. I've been to 3 events in the last 12 months with really, I mean, high quality speakers. And more often than not, I caught myself thinking not about the content they were presenting to me, but asking myself, that sounds familiar. In which book did I read that? Right. It's just so funny because they get their content in the same fashion, the same way that I will get it, that anyone else can get it if they just weren't lazy. So when you come to an event for quote unquote content, more often than not, you will find that the speaker is simply doing you a favor by summarizing content that he or she learned from a different source. Now, Jonathan, I mean, you've been to a few events this year as well, and you've been to some high quality ones like, marketing funnel automation. So How do you feel about the content element?
Well, look, I'm already at a point where I don't need any more content. And in fact, you talked about this on a previous show, and believe it or not, I'm sure you believe it. You're a big influence on me because I look at what you're doing and I'm like, wait a second, Igor, the czar, shit, I'm the king. Let's do this, right? So look, I don't need any more content, and I almost feel like the content could really be a huge distraction, because if you don't need that wherever you are in your business, then that's going to take you on a rabbit trail that's going to keep you from the success you need. And I feel like the content is a problem, actually. And so, for instance, we talk about marketing funnel automation. I went down there, first of all, because it was here in Florida. And so my family could come with me and we could drive down there. No big expense, no big thing. Just took a road trip. And the other thing was, I was looking through my Facebook contacts trying to meet people that I hadn't met before. And so that's why I want to circle back to what you were saying, because content, you can get that anywhere. Content is cheap, in my opinion. But you talked about those big players, those people doing 100 times what you're doing. Are those people up on the stage? Are they in the back of the room? How do you find those people?
Well, whenever I look at a seminar, one of the first few things I'm looking at is the speaker list, because the speaker list will tell you about the quality of the event as well as the quality of the people in the room. So, for instance, if the speaker list includes like multimillionaires and people who are really accomplished in our industry, you can you can bet that there's going to be other top performers that are going to come in and watch them and listen to them speak, because that's what top earners do. They want to hang out with the ones that are like them. So if you want to end up in a room where top earners, there's plenty of top earners, right? Make sure that whichever seminar you go to has, well, at least a few of them in the speaker list. Now, another way to determine whether or not you're going to end up in a room full of top earners is based on the overall theme of the event. So, for instance, you went to Marketing Funnel Automation, which is all about sales funnels and creating offers by Todd Brown. So you can pretty much bet that there's going to be lots of top level people there, simply because they all invest a lot of time in writing copy and creating offers, right? And honestly, I did not come back then, but I will probably make an effort to come in for the next one, simply because I had the pleasure of watching Todd Brown speak. And once again, I knew where his content is coming from. He was actually honest about it. He was kind of reteaching something that Gene Schwartz taught a long time ago. Yep. But it was delivered in such a way that it was such an amazing reminder to what I've done in the past, that I just basically stood up, shut down my laptop. I went back to my hotel. I sat down in the coffee shop, which is located on the ground floor, which was actually it was a really cool hotel too. We had a coffee shop, a sports bar with a pool table, a restaurant like a steakhouse. It was really good. So I went to this coffee shop. I sat down and I wrote a brand new traffic promotion, which I already tested and mailed out to Melissa several times and successfully sold as a result of watching that presentation, which basically urged you to structure your advertising, your marketing around one big idea, right?
Yeah.
So again, the content was good, the speakers were good, and I also knew that, this event that I was going to, the ClickFunnels, the Funnel Hacking Live, was all about for people who use ClickFunnels. Now, incidentally, or ironically, I don't know which word fits better, but I don't own a ClickFunnels account, but I know that many of my top customers, people who build their own sales funnels that convert really well, like say Ryan Hauser, for instance, they are going to that event because they use the tool and they want to see what else is new. And so I said, okay, well, this event will have many of my customers, probably because they use the tool and they all respect Russell Brunson. They all look up to him for advice. They all read his books, etc. So I better be there. And I was not wrong. I ended up connecting with somebody I did not know, somebody who's an established copywriter in the MLM space, which may lead to a JV. I ended up connecting with quite a few people that I either heard of before or not heard of before, but who I know are in the space, that allowed me, right, to have a reason to connect with them. Basically, being in the same room, right, I now have quote unquote permission to approach them and invite them for a drink or just chat, etc. And again, simply because the quality of the content was going to be high and everybody looks up to Russell Brunson, I knew that I was safe to bank, right, that Funnel Hacking Live will attract lots of high quality speakers, which would justify the cost of going out there and the time cost, which my total time cost for this, by the way, was 2 weeks.
Wow.
The event was 3 days or 3.5 days, but my total cost was 2 weeks of my time.
So a couple things now. You said you might be going to Todd Brown's event. I know those are down here. So I would go to that event just to meet you in person. That's exactly what I did for the last one. I just thought about it. The only reason I went was because one of the speakers was Joe from Agora Financial, and I wanted to take him out to dinner. So I planned the whole event just to go meet one person, and I would do that again. That's one thing that I do like about events, meeting that one person, whoever it is, somebody that you might have worked with, somebody that you know of, whatever it is. I like that part of it. So tell me, Igor, are you planning on going to more events, or are you backing off of that? Where are you at? Because I know you're missing your daughter when you do all this. So where's your head at on that?
Well, I'll be honest, Jonathan, I'm pretty much in the same space as you are. I'm always looking at the scale, right? And so if you ask me right now if I'm going to go out to an event next week, I will probably say no, I will not, because I've just came back and I cannot bear the thought of being away from Erica for another 2 weeks. But if there is an event that's worthy of coming out for, right? Just like I said, like for instance, marketing funnel automation, or the Traffic and Conversion Summit, which just happened in San Diego, I will probably plan to be there for sure, especially if I get to meet people I really look forward to meeting, like both experts and friends, etc. Sometimes I'll go out to meet a friend. But the reason I stayed for 2 weeks is because I came back through New York. So I went to Tel Aviv, then Dallas. Then from Dallas, I went to New York for a week, because on my way back, I met up with a bunch of people that I already work with. So I met up with my copywriting mentor, Ross Bowring, who actually wrote a bunch of my promotions, which I still use to this day, believe it or not. And it's been a couple of years, and he's the guy who taught me how to write really good copy. He took me from good to great, if you will. Or maybe should I say from okay, right, to pretty good. And I don't think I'm a great copywriter by any means, because I haven't wrote for anybody but myself for the most part. Unless you count the done for you email service that we got going on, but that's for another time. Now, so I met up with him. I met up with Alex Zubarev, a longtime client and a well-established top earner in the industry. So if you're in the digital altitude, or you used to be in Empower Network, you probably heard the name, and a bunch of other people, right? And so by doing so, again, this is a way to maximize the trip. And the common theme of all this decision making, if you will, is the people, right? It's definitely the people. So if the people are worth it, then I will definitely come and see them. But I doubt that I'll get out on, to more than a couple of events every 6 months, or maybe even once every 6 months, because it really takes a toll. Unless I decide to take my family with me, which again is not a battle, right? So it's always a question of what are you willing to sacrifice, if you're going there, the time or the quality of the effort that you're going to put in. Because if your family is stuck in a hotel room, you're going to think about them, and that's going to diminish the quality. You won't be able to stay up. Like I actually, on this trip, I stayed up until like 2 a.m. in the morning every single day. Because once the seminar's over, everybody wants to go party. And that's one of the ways they do business. Yeah. There's even a thing called the Internet Marketers Party, which is hosted by David Gonzalez every year, right? Yeah. So people just go to party, and, if you party hard, they want to do business with you for some reason. Now, I'm not a party animal by all means, but, I make an effort to stay up as much as I can, because it's when those people that you want to meet are drunk and tired.
Giving away sales secrets right there.
Exactly. It's only then that they end up being real with you, because until then, let's face it, Jonathan. I mean, I'm sure you've had this experience yourself. Everybody's kind of nice and they're smiling, but you can also sense the distance, and nobody's revealing anything. Like, they're really afraid to be vulnerable. It's really rare for me to meet someone at a seminar who's being real with me within the first couple of hours of communication. It's only if you take him out for dinner or go grab a drink, it's only then that you start forming a real relationship with that person.
That's a secret that like the sales reps use, like the pharma companies, for instance, wooing doctors and stuff like that. It's about getting them drunk, getting them out to dinner, and getting their guard down. to make a real connection. I'm doing air quotes, but you're right. That's where the real stuff comes out, where you hear the best stories and where you make the connection, where you're not hanging out necessarily on a business level, but you're hanging out more on a friend or a social level. And if you think about the pickup artists, that's one of their routines, right? They want to take a girl wherever they meet her and then move her to 2 or 3 different locations so that it seems like they've known them longer. So you meet at the conference, you see each other at a couple sessions, you hang out in the hallway, have coffee, then you go out and have drinks. You're escalating the relationship there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't remember what the technique is called, but you're absolutely right. It really speeds up the relationship forming process. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to be best friends or anything, but it does create a feeling of going through a common experience together. And that leads usually to a stronger bond. I felt it on my own. I felt it when I was in the Army, when I was going through my boot camp. And so I was sharing a tent with 6 other guys who were like just so different from me. None of them were Russian. I was older than all of them. I was 21 at the time because I spent some time running away from the Army. That's why they put me in jail at some point. But I was MIA. But then, like, I was older than they were. I had different goals in my life. I actually had goals with my life, right? None of them had. They just came out of high school and were recruited into the Army. So, but after about a week, we went through so much shit together. Like we got shit from our superiors. They sent us to like on runs and marches, and we went out to the desert. We shot out of rifles together. So by going through all of these experiences together, I felt like these guys were my best friends. And the first weekend that they allowed us to leave the base, to just go home for a couple of days, I felt so bad. I honestly felt so bad. So when I arrived, and me and Anastasia were living on our own at the time already, we went to see my parents. And so I remember clearly stepping out of my parents' home after a really good meal, and I was really sad. And Anastasia asked me, what was wrong. And at first I couldn't tell her what was wrong. But then when we got into the car, my dad's car, I said, "Oh wow, I realized I really miss the guys." Now she took it the wrong way. She we ended up having a fight because she was like, "What? You haven't seen me for 2 weeks, and all you can think about is the guys and blah blah blah." But yeah, I was genuinely missing them. I genuinely wanted to see them, especially this one guy. His name was Matan, who was a Jew from Morocco, really young kid. He was 17 and a half. I was 21, but we connected. We connected really well because we ended up doing a lot of things together, like sharing those chores that they give you in the boot camp together, and kind of helping each other climb over fences and stuff like that. Yeah, so going through this common experience bonded us real bad, even though we had 0 things in common. I'm talking 0. No language, no interest, nothing. Well, actually, there was one interest. There was, football or soccer. But we cheered for different teams. I was a Manchester United fan, still am, in spite of their really bad streak in recent years. And he was a Barcelona fan, like most people here in Israel, like Dennis is. So, I mean, we really had almost nothing in common, and we bonded over this experience. So, back to my point about seminars, you wanna deliberately create those experiences with the people that you plan on connecting or that you want to do business with, because by doing so, it immediately puts you in a different box. You're no longer somebody who they met at a seminar. You're no longer another marketer. You now become a friend, or somebody who's at least a step above that, like somebody who's considered to be much closer than just an acquaintance. And that allows you to form joint ventures that last.
Boom. So I just want to point out, you thought we weren't going to be able to talk about this too much, and we are running over. So let's wrap up this issue of the List Building Lifestyle, and we'll be back next time, List Builders.
Thank you for listening to the List Building Lifestyle. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to never miss an episode. Because who knows, just one conversion tactic we share on the show might double your list and double your business. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. And don't forget to claim your complimentary copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. This is Igor Kheifets, and until next time we talk, have a good one.
This is the podcastfactory.com.